It was about 11 years ago. I was in Philadelphia, and I was celebrating Mass in the lower church. It was a 7 o'clock a.m. Mass, I think it was. Very early Mass. Mostly business people getting ready to get on to their day in the middle of the city. And I had a priest friend celebrating with me, so there's two priests up there. And during the first reading, this woman who was a homeless woman, whom I would talk to often, seriously mentally ill, she decided to come into the church and she wanted to talk to me. So she comes into the church holding a big cup of coffee, screaming and swearing and cursing while the first reading is going on. She has her eyes fixed on me. She's coming right down the center aisle, swearing and cursing, making a big scene. And so I got off my seat and I walked up to her and said, "Okay, Mary, let's go outside. Let's go talk." And I walked her up the steps. And as we're going out of the lower church, she turns around. And now she has the doors at her back. I'm in front of her, and she feels trapped. And she takes the whole cup of coffee and throws it all over me. Thank God it was cold coffee. So I said, "Okay, Mary, let's go." And I walked her outside. And as I'm heading back to the sacristy to go get changed, I looked at the priest who was with me. I said, "Read the gospel and preach. I'll be right back. I got to change." So he gets up to read the gospel. And it was the gospel we just heard about the demoniac in the temple. And so Father Tom said, "As tempted as I am to preach on the gospel after what just happened, I'm going to resist." So it's kind of a perfect timing that was the gospel passage after this big event of this woman going crazy in the church and throwing coffee all over me. You know, the devil likes to instill fear of God. An unholy fear of God. The Spirit of God gives us a holy fear of God. What is a holy fear of God? The holy fear of God is a reverence. It's a respect. It's a recognition of the person whom you're in relationship with is someone that you always want to stay in relationship with, and you would fear doing anything that would in any way, shape, or form disrupt that relationship. You know, husband and wives, if someone's tempted to do something wrong in a relationship, you would fear doing something wrong because you don't want to hurt the relationship. You fear hurting the other person. That's a holy reverential fear of the other person with whom you're in relationship with. And so it is with God. When we are in relationship with God, we fear ever doing anything to hurt that relationship, to hurt the Lord, to wound that relationship. It's a holy fear, not based in a cowering fear of God, but a holiness of reverence and respect that we so love Him that we never want anything to happen to the beauty of this relationship. That's different than the fear that the evil one wants to instill within us. Although we may approach God fearfully, knowing our sinfulness, we trust in His mercy. And so we approach Him in our sinfulness, knowing that He is merciful. But the evil one wants us to have such fear of God that we don't want to approach Him, that we don't want to come near Him. The evil one wants to instill such fear that we start thinking that God could never forgive us, and therefore why go to Him at all? Look at what this demon says through this young man in the synagogue today. So we don't know if he was screaming with a guttural voice, like, "Who are you to do it?" Or was it simply just a sound like somebody talking naturally? Because the goal, no matter whether it was with some guttural voice or with some nice sweet voice, the goal was to get people to fear Jesus so much that no one would want to come near Him. He says, "What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? Have you come to destroy us?" Now, was he speaking, meaning the dominion of Satan, or was he trying to speak on behalf of humanity, to instill fear in humanity, that somehow Jesus of Nazareth has come to destroy them? So fear Him, stay away from Him, don't go near Him. He's the destroyer. He's not the Savior, He's the destroyer. He says, "I know who you are, the Holy One of God." The Holy One of God. As if the evil one was trying to say to humanity, "You're too sinful. You're too broken. Stay away from Him. He's the destroyer. He'll destroy you." He's not a God of mercy. He's a God of destruction. Stay away from Him. And then Jesus rebukes the demon and says, "Be quiet and come out of him." You see, the evil one wants us to think that God is so cruel, God is so mean, that God is just the destroyer, that no sin can be brought to him, that we've committed such sins that God could never forgive us, that there's no mercy for the sinner. I always talk to people about the sinfulness we've committed and how much we can get caught in sin. And what the devil does is when we fall into sin, the devil takes his clawed foot, sticks it in our face, shoves it into the dirt and says, "That's all you are, that's all you ever be. Don't turn to God. There's no reason to turn to God. You're hopeless. You're just dirt, and that's all you're ever going to be is dirt. Don't look up to that God." That's a temptation, particularly when we fall into sin, to somehow think that that's all we are is dirt. We can never be more than that, and God could never forgive us. And nothing could be further than the truth. Which is why Jesus has to say to the demon, "Be quiet and come out." In other words, shut up, that's a lie. God is the God of mercy. And even the most hardened sinner, the worst sinner, could turn to him to receive his mercy with a repentant heart, with a contrite heart, with a willingness to change, turning back to the Lord. The Lord comes not as the destroyer, but as the Savior, as the God of mercy. Think about after this event, Jesus will then call to himself Matthew, the tax collector, who couldn't even go to synagogue, who hung out with prostitutes in ill repute. Matthew will be called to follow our Lord and be the first one to pen a gospel. He'll go on to call Mary Magdalene and other sinners to himself. He came to save the sinner, to bring them redemption. So today, as we read this gospel and reflect upon the mercy of God, to remember that don't let the evil one lie to you. Don't let him lie to you and tell you that God could never forgive, that God could never be merciful, that you are nothing, there's no hope, that he's the destroyer, and there's no way you can go to him. Call the lie a lie. The devil is the father of lies. And when the devil reminds you of your past, remind him of his future. So turn to the Lord always. Trust to his mercy. A reverential and holy fear of the Lord, which includes trust that he is the God of forgiveness, not the destroyer of life, but the restorer of life. May God bless you and Mary keep you.